So, Donald, you are competing tomorrow in the challenge. When did you guys find the events out? Because I'm just getting into, like, I'm judging and stuff tomorrow, but I'm just reading through all of them. And some of them I'm like, oh, you know, I haven't been studying up on these yet. So I'm just kind of getting into it. How long have you been, like, training for them?
Well, like this event specifically.
Yeah.
I mean, what was interesting is this is kind of maybe indicative of blonde moments on my part. Apparently, the workouts for the challenge have been out for weeks. I had no idea.
Yeah, that's why I was asking if you knew.
I signed up. I talked to Drake offline maybe 2 weeks ago, and I was like, hey, you know, I've been a little late. Is there a spot still? I would need a partner in the Masters, and this guy Matt, who actually works out here quite frequently, was also looking for a partner.
Cool.
Fraction of my age. But what I loved is that Drake's like, look, you know, we've got a 75 combined year requirement here, and without having to do too much algebra, someone would have to be in their late 20s then to still have us qualify. So I was able to kind of just pluck somebody.
I like that role. I like the 75 combined.
Yeah.
That's a good role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good for me, right?
Yeah.
So we can bring up a spring chicken up into the Masters to help make up for me. But you know, so in old CrossFit style, I was actually just thinking they were going to announce the workouts the morning of.
Okay.
Right? I had no idea they would have anything in advance. Maybe it shows how novice I am at some of these competitions, but it had been out for weeks. So I looked at it. I do some coaching here with James, and so there were a few movements that I'm not as familiar with because there's some sandbag movements which I sometimes touch, but not always here. And in Drake fashion, there's a movement of having to clear a 41-inch bar. After a burpee. So I'm trying not to clumsily learn that on the spot. Although I'll probably still clip a shin here or there. But other than that, I think it looks pretty straightforward. I'm excited because in the Masters category, this versus let's say intermediate is still some pretty advanced movement, right? So we still have rope climbs, we still have handstand walks, we've got some pretty heavy barbell movements. So for me, that's I like because I'm a lighter guy, so I kind of tap out after a certain barbell weight, but I can do some of the more advanced movements, which is nice for a competition versus when you get into scaled or intermediate. Sometimes they strip away bar muscle ups or ring muscle ups and things like this.
That's what I was going to say. That was part of what I was in this kind of no man's zone for a while. And I think you could empathize with this where I had a lot of I could do some of the more advanced movements, the muscle ups and walk on my hands and handstand push-ups. But you kind of had the choice of these Festivus Games style things where the movements were knees to chest, and then but the loading would still be fairly heavy.
Yeah.
Or it would be games competitors. And there was sort of this big missing chunk of is there a competition with intermediate or challenging movements, but
high skill, moderate weight?
Yeah,
That's the niche.
Yeah, exactly. But you're not asking people to snatch 225 in a Metcon or something,
Good luck, with a 21-15-9 rep scheme at 215.
I think
snatch,
Drake's found a good little niche with these competitions that he did it last year and this year where the loading isn't easy, but it's reasonable enough. And then the movements, again, it's for people who have done this for years, it allows you to do it outside of the online open stuff.
Yeah. There is maybe a little bit of a missing middle for some competitors, whether it's given that we're kind of on a sliding scale, a little bit of age or body weight. So I weigh in at 148 to 152 usually, and so there's maybe a max of what I can lift. I really do like what Drake's programmed for this.
Yeah.
We'll see if the weather cooperates tomorrow, but hopefully it'll be a good competition.
I'm thinking it from what I've seen. I think it's supposed to.
It doesn't look like 7 a.m. There's a chance of rain, and then like 7 to 8, and then nothing till 6.
I love this. Kate is now a meteorologist.
Yeah. Well, I checked for the block party because I'm organizing a
Uh,
block party, and I absolutely don't want kids in my house.
Okay.
The noise thing, you know.
Yes.
We're always our life is pushed around by weather. Actually, a decent amount. Whether it's like stuff at the gym or like we're just always like, do you know what it's supposed to be like
Just
between these hours or kids sports or whatever it is? You know,
A couple more years and AI will have the weather figured out.
Yep.
Right?
How to
set it.
What
and
would you
forget it
like
for
the weather
day.
to be
how to
tomorrow?
how to shoot
Everybody
rockets.
vote. You feel like being lazy?
Didn't they try
Let
to
it
do that
rain.
at the Olympics with shoot some sort of rockets at clouds or something a few years ago? I don't know.
Are you making this up?
I'm not.
Did you see this in a movie?
No, this was.
What
We've
web
watched
news
a
you're
lot of
reading.
like space alien movies lately.
No, it was like
He's been watching InfoWars over here.
they do some cloud seeding, I think, in Dubai.
It is a thing. I don't know
Yeah.
enough
Cloud
about
seeding.
it, but yeah.
So
Yeah.
cloud seeding, what would that do? Would that promote
Creates
rain?
rain.
It creates
Okay.
a little bit of rain
Because it makes the clouds a little heavier.
Yeah, they like make some clouds and
So they fly like.
I don't know how they do it, but yeah, it makes a little
Wow.
bit of rain. So they can't really manipulate the weather heavily yet, or in any sort of like, I think, way that has a profound effect. But I do think they were shooting some sort of rockets to move some clouds around for the Olympics. I don't know.
I mean, that makes
like it
sense.
was like
It is such
10
a huge
10,
factor
12
for
years
so
ago,
many
yeah.
things.
Yeah.
I mean, think of all the millionaires that want to get married outside, you know?
There you go. Let's change the whole weather pattern for the day.
Move the clouds. Yes.
Event one.
Okay, so I think Donald has some things that he would like to talk about.
No, well, yeah. So
Too,
you're
yeah.
just coming off a competition, and that's where I wanted to go with a lot of this. But I wanted to kind of just kick it off, like, hey, we've got one tomorrow.
Yeah, no, and it was really exciting to see it come. And I think for this gym in particular, just given its size, you know, and a lot of its deep membership base, I think it's great that we've got what's developing as potentially a tradition here to have a competition.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot, you know, and you know, outside of what I would say is that kind of the more the consuming kind of elite focused, like this is a big part of your life,
Sure.
you know, kind of a competition circuit, which is well established.
I think
for the everyday athletes,
I
you
think
know,
the
it's a lot less.
2010s had a lot. It was a really good era of local competitions. There were just more of them.
Yeah.
And you know, besides the Open and the games, there's like finding a place where, you know, especially since regionals are gone, there's not a lot of avenues for like intermediate, you know, athletes and some novice athletes that do the stuff to really compete outside their gym. So I know, like a local competition, it's a lot to ask. It's a lot to put on. It's you know, Mitch did it for years at Fit Club. It's like it's hard. It's not an easy thing to do. It takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot of organization. But I think people really enjoy doing it. You know, I haven't done one in a long time. I think I would be up for doing one again at some point too if it
Cannonball.
piqued my interest. Yeah.
That's what I like.
Kate likes the cannonball run, which is like a high rocks, we're doing,
Go
where
straight
it's like
through, yeah.
you
that's
knock
the
a whole
last one I did,
competition
yeah.
out in about 90 minutes. I've been to some, and I haven't participated in them, but I think it is a good way to do a local one where they kind of do like stations, like you'll do a Metcon or something, and you know, it'll be like a 5 to 10 minute workout, and then you kind of walk forward. You have like a 2 or 3 minute rest, and then it's like you're maxing out a lift, and then you go to the next thing, and then it's another. So you plow through like 5 events in 90 minutes, and you're just sort of pushed through a car wash, and then the next team or person goes through it. Those are kind of cool ways to do local comps.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so in many ways, I mean, not to get too philosophical about CrossFit, and you, the three of you are much more into the kind of what this sport and kind of fitness regime is than I am. But when when the everyday or amateur athlete is maybe looking for some additional motivation, right? Maybe to not necessarily take this to the next level of this is going to become a different facet of my life, and therefore training is now kind of, you know, finding much more space than something else. But if you want to potentially take it to a level of not just show up for a WOD or a quick coaching session in out, you know, kind of thing, is having, you know, some competitions to at least anchor a training schedule.
100%.
And give some purpose, to what you're doing. Maybe it's, you know, hey, by X date, even though I don't know if handstand walks, for instance, will be part of this thing, it gives me some motivation for the next 4 months to, be able to get 25 feet, let's say, just making up an example, and, it just, again, for those that are looking for maybe a little something more, but it doesn't become, too consuming, it adds a really nice structure for it, and some camaraderie, right? I think, the last time we were, I think, sitting here maybe 15 or so months ago talking about, the increasing lack of, people feeling connected to a lot, right? Is something as simple as a comp provides, an aspect of connection, community, more so than I think a lot of people may appreciate in the moment.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think that's what CrossFit is, like, really in its roots, is to connect people. I have felt that way being in the fitness world, for a lot of years, like probably 30 years, that connects, CrossFit connects people in such a unique way above, like, bodybuilding is definitely every person out for themselves, but still there's a little bit of like posing practice together, training together. I would be like in a group environment, and then I would do running clubs for like half marathons, and that was fun. But there's something very unique about CrossFit that just makes you so vulnerable. Like, it's just, you're going to suck at something. Everybody sees it.
Yep.
And it's displayed out there. We're like running, like we're all kind of good runners. That's why we do run. And I think it's really neat. Yeah. It's really special.
Well, it's clearly set up as a coach with multiple people in one confined area with one same workout with a shared vocabulary. And no devices, like which I think remains an important piece of this. No one has AirPods in or is checking a phone, and you've got a chunk of work to get done, right? You also have movement standards, which means that if you're sloppy or cutting a corner here, it's it's not just to yourself, it's to the class, right? And so there's a level of not policing, but a level of, hey, here's like the baseline of kind of what it is, right? I mean, if you see somebody doing a pull-up, for instance, that is out of rep, you're not going to call them out necessarily, but you notice. Right?
Sure.
And, so there's that, I think that's a nice differentiator. And, what I found a little out of my comfort zone since we were last here was I did my first powerlifting comp.
Cool.
Kind of adjacent to CrossFit.
When was that?
Well, that was actually in June as well. So
wow.
Yeah. Again, in the category.
No wonder you're looking super trim right now.
No. It's the lighting. So it, in the same category of like how ditzy I am sometimes. I didn't know this thing existed, but it's been around for like 20 plus years. Called the Gay Games. It happens every 4 years. It usually travels somewhere in the world. So this year it was in Valencia, Spain. And they had like 35 or so events.
Very cool.
I think maybe 10,000 athletes. I don't want to sound like the Chamber of Commerce for this thing, but these are like just a couple things I knew. I was like, well, what could go wrong, right? And I have some really good friends that live in Madrid. I have some friends in Italy. And I was like, oh, well, maybe what I'll do is just kind of sandwich this as something to do, but not just something to do, but something to kind of amp up a little bit of my spring training, and I had never done powerlifting before in terms of like a comp, right? And so it gave some purpose, and I really like that. I would say that, for the spring, my training here was more focused on just back squat, deadlift, bench press, because those are like the key,
Sure.
powerlifting moves. But what was eye-opening was that it's, while it's moving a barbell, it's with a very different purpose and a different standard. And it started getting me much more attuned to like things like a foot placement or, how do you build a one rep max a little differently, because it's a single move, right? Like a lot of clearly in the CrossFit world, it's like multiple reps, is in a powerlifting comp, you've got, 9 attempts over the entire, session, right? 2 of which I no repped during the, as a novice. And so, I didn't break full parallel on one of my back squats, and that was my first move, right? I'm like, oh, geez.
Was it your first lift on the back squat?
So I get no repped on my first move, and I'm like, talk about mental, like, oh my God, like, what am I doing, And it just kind of got me a little more focused, and then I no repped, I think, on my second bench press because I moved my foot, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that foot movement
Oh, wow.
was a no
Okay.
rep, you know. So
this was just
yeah.
the powerlifting that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little different. Okay.
Yeah. So I was in kind of the novice category for that.
Yeah.
And my goal was to hit, everything's in kilos, right? So I'm converting it to pounds. Was to get 750. I was like it was, you know, I probably could have done I could have set the goal just a little bit more. I was like, look, it's my first, let's do this. So I got 744. I was a little shy because that first no rep on the back squat made me
You couldn't hit your third
that.
attempt.
And you can't go down,
Yep,
right?
yep, yep.
So exactly. So, and I didn't want to be like, oh, let's put even more on, right? I was like, nah, you know, so I got a little shy of my goal, but I felt good about just getting out there. And then they also had CrossFit, which was called, I think, cross training, because they couldn't use the word CrossFit, but it was CrossFit for 2 days out there as well, which was a lot of fun.
Did you do that event too?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. And that one, it was just, you know, kind of 3 divisions for men. There was an RX single. There was kind of what we called, I think there was RX team, and then kind of intermediate team, and team being 2.
And this was all part of the Gay Games. Then.
Exactly.
Okay, but they
Yeah.
couldn't use the CrossFit name. Okay.
Yeah,
Because they didn't put it on.
Unless you get it
Yeah.
like sanctioned or something
Yeah,
from them.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's really neat.
Yeah.
I kept thinking it was in Barcelona, but how you've been to Valencia before?
Have not. I've been to
How was
Barcelona.
it?
Had not been to Madrid. I spent
Okay.
about a week in Madrid ahead of time. It was good, you know, because all this was going on. I didn't really get to do
Get to
much,
see
so it was
much,
more.
yeah.
You know, it could have been Cleveland.
Yeah.
You know, it probably would have been a comparable
business trip.
experience. You know, yeah. You know, so it was lovely for what it was.
Right.
But I didn't get a chance to actually experience too much of it, because things were kind of spread out all over the place. And then if I wanted to go watch rugby or go watch a little swimming or something, you know, then you're kind of doing all the sports, you know.
Yeah.
And I would say that it was a good ethos of athleticism, but at the same time, it was certainly amateur, right?
Yeah.
It would not be equivalent to, you know, kind of the semifinals in terms of like where
The skill
you know,
level.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
skilled, but I mean, particularly for CrossFit, right? Because you can't get on that floor unless you know what you're doing, right?
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
and do that, you know. And what was interesting is they did release the workout about a week prior, which I wasn't expecting, and probably a good 1 in 4, I think, of CrossFit dropped out because it was pretty intense. I mean, they had like, you know, legless rope climbs they had some movements, you know, that were fairly advanced.
Yeah.
And even in the kind of scaled intermediate kind of where I was, it was all advanced movements at some pretty high weights. I mean, like, for instance, you would tend to, you know, kind of intermediate or scaled levels not to see, like, let's say a 50-pound dumbbell being used, but, you know, we were at the kilo equivalent of 44, 45 pounds on dumbbell snatches and things, which I have to say, like, I had not been using those ever really here. I was kind of tapping out at 35, for instance, on things. I was like, well, we just got to do it, and we did it. You know, so it was good for me also to just be like, that's to kind of push through what was becoming maybe more comfortable or mentally more of a plateau on some of this stuff. So that was worth.
So what division did you do?
Yes, it was men's, technically scaled, but was really kind of what we would call intermediate.
Okay.
And it was a team of 2 of us. So
Great.
I got the other piece here that I guess maybe is quintessentially CrossFit is that this is a teammate I've never worked out with. He was Russian but lives in Serbia. English was probably better than 90% of people who live in Columbus, Ohio. So like that wasn't an issue. You know, was and you know was you know, quite good. He was good himself, but we had a similar kind of you know, kind of body weight and ability to move things. What became a little CrossFit-y about it was that we also had to do some synchronized movement. It wasn't just, you know, partner on, partner off, or, you know, kind of some things in tandem. We had to do a number of movements in synchro.
Okay.
And so again, we have never worked out with this person, and I've never really trained with anyone in synchro, right? So for instance, there were some movements like pull-ups, right? And we had to be chin over bar at same time on the same bar. in a large rep pattern into other movements, right? We had shuttle runs in full synchro, meaning we had to touch down at the same time, go back, touch down at the, and so that we had to kind of learn on the spot together.
Did you guys do like C-kip pull-ups or butterfly pull-ups?
We were doing kipping pull-ups.
Okay, I was going to say that's going to be real challenging was it chin over bar or chest
Yes.
over bar?
Those were chin over bar.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're doing chin over bar, to time a butterfly is like next to impossible.
I can't imagine, right?
Now, people do it with the chest. Like, our teams would get it, but they'd have to practice, and it'd usually be like the person who was a little better would like look at the person who wasn't as good, and they would have to like pull themselves like with them.
Depending on your arms and your body,
Yeah.
your limb proportions,
Yeah.
like your cycle times can be a little different. So one person might be having to speed up, the other's slowing down. It can be a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like you said, you were similar body size.
So he
That's
was
good.
maybe an inch shorter, and then maybe 5-10 pounds heavier than me. So it was kind of we were a good pairing. Who knew, right? I mean, because it was I don't think that it was just arbitrary who they paired people up with. So that worked out well. But that was kind of an on the moment, kind of have to figure this out kind of thing.
When did you meet him?
That morning.
Oh,
so it was
wow.
2 full days. We had 4, actually technically 5 kind of wads, if you will. And we were kind of working all day, So it was, it was a great experience just in terms of, having that much to do in that short period of time. It was a nice edited group of people that kind of knew what they were doing. Across the games, again, there's like a realm of a wide range of competency, let's say. But for the CrossFit, it was pretty experienced. And so we got the bronze in our division, which was nice.
Great.
Cool.
Yeah. So it was nice.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Would have been nice to have silver, right? But it was that was kind of fun. So.
And that's out of how many athletes?
So I think in CrossFit, there were total probably 90, 95, I think.
Okay.
So
and they're all in really good shape.
Yeah,
if they're
yeah, yeah,
traveling around the world to go there.
Yeah.
So this is not like your normal spread of like people doing the open or any.
Yeah, I would say it's somewhere probably a little bit in between. It would be probably people advancing into quarters. Maybe.
Okay.
That would be maybe comparable, right? Probably.
Wow. That's impressive.
So you said there was 10,000 athletes at this thing total, though?
And I'm using the word athlete, people who registered to actually, so
No,
I know
I'm
being
just
a little facetious,
the
but it
scope,
was like a wide range of people.
But the scope of putting on who puts this competition on?
Well, I will say, maybe this gets into a point like around excellence that we can talk about. This was not necessarily delivered excellently.
Okay.
So what I don't want to do is like there's a lot of work that goes into anything.
No, I understand.
And you
Yeah,
never want to like be a jerk or like whatever. But it's not run like a for-profit enterprise, because I think loosely from what I understand, I'm no expert on this, right, is that there are all these different federations, right, of swimming and track and field and rugby leagues and the powerlifting, that are all kind of individually governed and run globally for competitions and things. And I think just there's like this small group that centrally brings them together every 4 years to kind of patch it together. And you can kind of tell it's patched together.
Okay.
So it's not as seamless as you might think, but it somehow works. So and again,
That just
my
blows
first
my
time
mind.
ever showing.
I just know how what it's like I've been at competitions with a couple hundred athletes and how big of a undertaking that is. And then when you said 10,000, I'm like, dude, that's like the actual Olympics. Like not in scope of people. Well, I'm not saying in like the people, the athlete quality.
Elite. Yeah.
But
I had my eye out,
the volume of people. Was there one sport? I just want to was there one sport that you did see like that is actually at the highest level of anything here? Like in comp, like I'm sure there's like one sport where you're like, whoa, that is like.
So, and not to sound, so CrossFit, because there's a gating limiter, right? Like you could not be on that floor if you weren't able to do like, high repetition, 44-pound, like single dumbbell into like,
sure.
So if you had to think about it, that was probably among the most gating just because of the nature of the sport.
Yep.
But if you're out there, watching rugby, you could have, 3 players in the team that aren't great, but the team was good,
Yep.
right? Or if you're watching some other like team-based sports, a little harder to tell. I think volleyball was a little fierce. I didn't see it, but I think in the upper echelons of that. But I mean, I would say that the powerlifting, there were certainly some people that had been clearly doing it for years, and then a lot of amateurs to novice. So a much wider kind of spectrum of athleticism that was there. So I mean,
they had basketball and things
basketball,
like that.
Gymnastics.
Yep.
I mean, all this kind of
Oh,
stuff.
wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really neat. So you could go watch some of the other events then too.
You could. I was a little surprised. Valencia is much larger than I was anticipating.
Okay.
As Americans, we sometimes don't have a kind of a full appreciation of how big other places might be.
And just how to get
But
around.
oh
there.
no, it was like logistics were a little challenging. So I picked and chose a little bit of what else to see.
Cool.
So,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
what kind of worked with my schedule too.
Nice. I really wanted to go to Valencia a few years ago when we went to Barcelona. But they had what did they have? And then some
They just had a flood.
yeah, natural disaster. Yeah.
So they just had a
Yeah.
flood. They just came off of a flood not that long ago, so it might have been like we were kind of between the two cities and where to take the trip, and then that sort of made
Portugal
the decision.
or
Yeah,
and then then we settled on a.
You couldn't tell. I mean,
Nice
it was
one.
remarkable. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a major flooding, and you'd have no idea.
It wasn't that long ago.
No,
Yeah,
I mean,
just
it
like
looked
2 years.
unscathed.
Yeah,
It was
wow.
remarkable. Yeah, you wouldn't have known. So it was a little surprising.
Yeah, really cool.
So Donald, what are you going to do today to prep your body for tomorrow?
Not much, So I worked with James a little bit, my coach here at the box yesterday. Last couple days we've been spending is just getting a little familiarity again with some of the sandbag lifts, getting over the 41-inch bar. I was practicing a bit on the sled drag. It's a move that, again, we often have programmed here, but I don't
Come on those days.
exactly.
Yep,
Well,
yep.
or-
It's oftentimes on
yeah.
like a restish kind of day, Thursday or something.
I'm not an avoider. It's just that I might trade it off for doing my own workout.
Yep.
For that. And I've got a couple things on this aging body that's past its warranty period that flare, right? And so I've got like a big issue with my left toe. And a few of these movements.
The sled drag puts a lot on that.
I can do, but it's like, well, what's the cost benefit? And it's not like, that's gonna, it's like I really have like a physiological issue.
Is it like a
with so,
tendinitis?
it's we'll get real here on the I've inherited kind of a larger kidney issue that's kind of in the family. And as a result of that, what happens when you have some renal issues is that it's autoimmune and can attack other parts of the body, right? And
like
so
gout type stuff.
correct.
Yep.
And so I, despite environmentally doing everything that is possible, I don't smoke. I barely have any alcohol. I don't do any drugs. I work out nearly every day here, is that I, am experiencing what are, kind of severe conditions in my foot, right? And so as a result of that, I'm very mindful now, and not just because of that, but over the last few years of finding some ways to take care of the machine that mix a little bit of traditional medicine with a little bit of alternative stuff. And so, I'm kind of smart on some of the movements that I'll do here, not to avoid them, but, make sure that it's like, what's the return on effort and return on like impact for this, and not to atrophy on a movement. But at the same time, if I know that doing a bunch of overhead lunges at 95 pounds is going to like flare this, then, choose accordingly. Right.
Yeah.
But, I do weekly acupuncture. I've got weekly massage. I do chiropractic, I'm doing PT now on this because I want to stabilize it. What I want to avoid is surgery, not because I don't like surgery, but it's not, there's not the highest hit rate of that actually being successh
But what would they do with the surgery, if you don't mind me asking?
So they would completely reconstruct this joint of the big toe, or with the great toe, I think as it's called, and
Self-named.
Yes.
The toe named itself.
there's a little crown.
The great
the great toe. And it's a long recovery period with, like what aren't necessarily guaranteed results. And, I had a knee reconstruction about 11 years ago after a big ski accident. So I've been through one of these situations before. And that wasn't elective. I mean, I had to get all of the surgery and reconstruction there. But the recovery is remarkable. When I looked at my two quads, because this, my left leg where I have the toe issue, but also where I had the reconstruction, when I came out of the surgery, I couldn't bear weight for 4 to 6 weeks on this leg, and the leg completely atrophied, right?
Yeah.
And when you looked in a mirror between the two, it was like two different people. And part of it was clearly getting swelling and circulation back, and then getting the muscle back took a year. A full year.
I believe
and
that.
so I never hit this,
especially
I never
if you're
again.
trained. Yeah. Do you think it's by chance it's the same toe as the reconstruction surgery? Have you thought about that?
Don't know how connected they are.
But just because it would be really hard. Like I find that in if I have like a hamstring issue, then I'll tend to get like the ankle issue in the same leg or the knee issue, and it's just that whole side just makes me mad.
But wait, there's more. Because I also have 2 slip discs. So like my L4, L5 are also like fully slipped, and so my pelvis gets out of alignment. And so the one other move, like I'll do everything at this box. What I tend never to do, unless absolutely necessary, is run. Because I used to be a big runner before this got fully diagnosed. I mean, I had slip discs for years, but they weren't diagnosed, and I always had these massive flares. And then when I finally got the MRI and the results, I still ran a little out of stubbornness, but then, after this, I was like, that was it, no more impact. But my pelvis will go out of alignment, right? And it tends to be also related to that side, right? So there is an issue on that side. And so with knowing that, right, is that then one, I'm smart about what I do here. I don't avoid movements, but I'll be smart about certain movements in terms of like, what's the payoff of it, but I don't want to necessarily just pick and choose. And then, second is how do you take care of this machine?
Right.
And I'd like to be able to do CrossFit for a while and also just be active for a while. So, functional, medicine around, kind of all this other stuff is interesting. And, what was a little eye-opening, it was funny. So I have this acupuncturist in town. She's, she got into the practice maybe 10 years ago after a long career in engineering. So it was kind of a life pivot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a 180 turn.
Totally. But she's really into sports acupuncture.
That's
She's got kind of a cool practice, and she's got an interesting mindset. And she pointed out to me, it was maybe 4 or 6 weeks ago, and I think I might have even sent to you, Kate, this article that came out in the New York Times.
Yes, you did.
And how all of a sudden, big medicine, right, the American Medical Association and this big team of doctors and scientists at the University of Pennsylvania with others had been working around this thing called the interstitial system. And they finally have, it's a breakthrough in regular medicine, if you will.
It's like a whole nother system they're finding. I think I told you about it, Brandon. He said it to me, and so did Carmen.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's less of this like hocus. They're like, guys, this is like a massive
this isn't just
breakthrough of
woo-woo
understanding
anymore.
the human body. Is that just like blood circulation, lymph nodes, right? There is this other circulation system called the interstitial system, is what they're calling it. And that is basically the basis of acupuncture, right? Of what that medicine has been for, hundreds of years. And
it's not just voodoo.
Right. It's and again, I'm no expert on it.
Yeah.
But I've found, with that and other things like chiropractic and massage, is that at least for me, when they're integrated, I can't necessarily always isolate what's working and say, oh, that session is what cured that or whatever. But in symphony, it all kind of works well for prevention, and then also for working things out when you do start having issues, because it's not that you're just going in to react to something.
It's funny you say she was an engineer. I've followed a couple people on YouTube or Instagram who are like chiropractors or in medicine like that, who were former engineers. And there's something to, this guy kind of talked about it, something about the way they usually they're good with numbers and like systems.
Yep.
So that's how he was like, the way I see it, it's like we're trying to line this all like and kind of
Like
as
a
soon as you said that, it
neurological-
connected
yeah.
that to like
Yeah.
what this guy was saying. He's like, I got out of this. He was like, but my mind works in this way, but it's this system here. And he like didn't do certain parts of chiro because he's like, I'm an engineer. So like, I just do this thing and I want to line this all like, he was kind
That's
of like
cool.
locked in to one way of doing something. It was kind of
That's
neat.
really cool.
Yeah, that's a bit of her approach too. It's it's targeted, clinical.
Yeah.
It's not about new age energy, you
Sure.
know, which she respects. But it's much more. You know, she literally can pin a few areas, and I can feel an impact way across the body.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had a shoulder release based on what she's doing down like in a calf. You know, it's you know, I had vertigo first time ever last spring. So, you know, I think I shared on our last podcast, you know, I've been teaching for a while. I think it's going on 16, 17 years. I'd never missed a day of class. And last March, out of the blue, I woke up with with vertigo. And I was like, oh my God, you know. And so what solved it for me, I first went to kind of an urgent, first texted my PCP, who's like, you know, very responsive, and got to an urgent care, you know, at OSU. They tried to kind of address it, but you know, the next morning, I went into my chiropractor and then into acupuncture, and they were able to do a few movements that are known. They couldn't do it at the clinic at Ohio State, and the catalyst was gone, and then it's like you have 6 to 8 weeks of like lingering effect typically. But those those two in tandem kind of stopped it, if you will. But then I, you know, kind of continued using it for weeks, kind of intensively to get the symptoms down afterward. Yeah.
Do they? And that's just mainly where like your ear crystals kind of like get out, but it's what you're saying. I've had that happen on a low level, but you probably woke up just feeling like super nauseous, like you couldn't function.
It was surreal, and I have a high tolerance for discomfort generally, including for people. But this was something. Like I had to just close my eyes because everything spins. And so if you're just sitting, you're it's again, unless you've experienced, it's hard to describe. But then what happens is you have this tail afterward, even when that spinning sensation. So when that sensation stops, that means that this physiologically the crystals have kind of, they're back to where they need to be, but your brain for weeks is still finding balance.
Like you just got off like an elevator or something, like a boat or
on ditziness. Like, you know, my peripheral vision was completely affected. So I also into PT I probably had 15 PT sessions, and I had all these exercises to do because you have to get back your peripheral vision.
Wow.
And so I noticed.
Could you not drive?
Well, day 1 and 2 after, it was highly intentional on the driving.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like it was like you were 16 again, you know. And I was clipping curbs. I mean, I was like, oh my God, I really am like that. At home, I was hitting the wall. I mean, it was strange, right?
Yeah.
Because you just lose your ability to have this like field of vision correctly.
I mean, I do that on my left side.
Yeah.
I've gotten used to that because I don't have anything over there. But so I mainly just hit my left head.
Okay.
I think I got a lot more bumps on that side.
Yeah. No, it's
But yeah, that's
humbling.
extreme. Yeah.
Humbling.
We've I'm not a huge, like I've never been a huge chiropractic person, mainly because you have one bad experience and I think it like affects you. But and I did in high school, but we have gotten it. I've found a woman that's amazing, and I told Brandon about it, and he's like, nah. And then we go, I mean, once you find someone you really trust, and I believe in all of that, like the alignment of your spine. I think fascia is another really big. I'll have to turn you on to maybe like some fascia work because that's cool too. That's all part of it. But it's just like it's really, how can you like without force or without surgery kind of get your body to go back in and stay
That's
in.
Tom Brady's whole thing is fascia. That's his whole like,
I love the fascia.
That's
Probably
what he
fascia above
nerded out
everything.
on.
Yeah.
Like everyone's kind of got their thing, and that's what he nerded out on, that like he credits to keeping him going playing NFL football till he was 45.
I think it's just keeping an open mind, right?
Yeah.
And realizing that because one doesn't fully understand it, maybe have some curiosity around it, right?
Yeah.
And not everything's going to work for everyone, right?
And not everything at any given time, too. So a lot of times I've found, like, I'm just not open at that point to that sort of therapy, even like chiropractic. But if I come back to it and find a good practitioner, I've worked through something personally where I'm open there now. And a lot of people just say, oh, that didn't work for me. Well, you know, kind of like kids and foods. You got to come back to the bananas every few years. Try it again.
and to that point that we talked about where you may not really be able to isolate one session, right, of having effectiveness is that, for instance, you know, for all of us who might have come to CrossFit and it was your first few sessions or first few weeks, I mean, you just, you know, you would have just given up, right? You have to kind of realize, okay, well, you know, I'm open-minded enough to give this a shot for a while and not just think this is taking a pill and I'm going to have like no headache as a result of it. You know,
Right.
So
I think for me, CrossFit I loved, but I just didn't realize how bad I was in the beginning. So I was like, this is
you would
cool.
never know. Look at you. I mean, you're like
I had the cardio, but I just didn't realize how bad I suck. So I thought it was fun until I started to try to get good. And I'm like, oh, you're really not good at this.
Yes, filming oneself is the barometer.
That's what. Well, this time always goes by too fast.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on, and
thanks,
we wish you the best tomorrow.
Right. Yeah.
Good luck. I'll be out there.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll judge you on one of these.
All right.
Just swing by.
No rep.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.